Are you ready for this? Because I'm not ready for this.
Quack.
I have never needed counseling for a book that I've read. Until now. Are you
I'm sure about that?
No, but this is pretty bad in like the world of not crime. This is as bad as it gets in not like a historical book, true crime book. None of that. This book makes me want counseling. I'm throwing up. It's as bad as they say, but that's why it's so good. Because it is so bad. You're like, this can't be freaking for real. And then you keep reading the next page and the next page. And now we're here, you and me, baby, because I cannot suffer alone. One thing I will never do is suffer in silence. My voice box actually works better when I'm sick. I have better voice clarity when I'm sick. I actually get louder as my pain grows bigger. These two things are directly related to each other for a very specific reason. So with that being said, let's get into more The Memoir by Molly Winter. And I do want to say that I discovered this book while I was watching I don't think she knows that I exist, a Read with Cindy video. And she was rating the romantic partners in books and if she would marry them in real life. Now, this is a nonfiction book, aka this is a real ass book. It's a memoir. The woman who experienced all of this in her marriage is writing about it, tippy-tapping on her keyboard, writing about it, published it, now is tainting all of us with sin. Now, Cindy rated, well, I can't really kill people, like real people, because she has a tier where she was like, I would kill these people. But she felt bad killing these people because they're real people. So she ranked it a little bit higher. But that got me so intrigued. I'm like, what would make The Greatest of All Time, Read with Cindy, want to kill people? And then I read it. And now I can't stop thinking about it for like the past week and a half. So here we are.
Okay, I still have no idea what you just said, but...
This is a book about a wealthy couple in New York. At least I think they're wealthy because they have so much time freedom and they have amount of resources to get hotel rooms, get babysitters, go on random ass trips all of a sudden.
Who's the author?
The author is Molly.
Molly.
Yeah. Molly married a guy named Stuart. She calls him Stu.
Okay.
Okay.
And she wrote a book about what?
Her marriage with Stuart.
Real story.
Real story.
And like, we hate Stuart.
I think I hate everyone. I think this book makes me hate you, okay? There were times I'm reading this book and I'm like, fuck men. And then the next chapter I'm like, bro, fuck women. Like, fuck everyone. I hate humanity after reading this book. She writes about her marriage and how it became an open marriage, and 10 years of their open marriage is slammed into this 300-page book. And I have never, truly, I am someone where I love everything. If you love it, I love it. If it's consensual, you love it, I love it. Truly, I love it. I'm not really judging you like that. I'm just like, that's a choice. But still, no judgment, just love in my heart for you and your free will. And I think polyamory is beautiful. I think open relationships have the potential to be beautiful. Is it for me? No. I read way too many murder novels, okay? But it is for some people, and I think it's beautiful. I think those people are at a place in their lives, in their emotional intelligence that is great. I can't do an open relationship, but if that's you, do you. That's what I'm trying to say right now. That is what I'm trying to say. I think you have the emotional intelligence. You have the emotional maturity to withstand stuff like this, to go through this turmoil. I don't. So let's get into Molly, the woman who almost ruined my random Tuesday. The whole escapade starts when Molly escapes from the mental asylum.
That's crazy.
No, I'm just kidding. She doesn't actually, but she does end up at a bar. Yeah, it's just, she's married. She has a husband.
How old is Molly?
Molly's like in her 40s, buddy.
Oh, okay.
And she's got 2 kids. One of them's, I don't know, 6 years old. The kids are like kind of part of the book, but not really kind of part of the book.
And this started 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so we're starting 10 years ago right now.
Flashback to 10 years ago. She escapes from the mental asylum, which is her husband that she low-key kind of wants to fucking punch in the face. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a mental asylum and you're my caretaker.
Okay.
Sometimes, like, when you bring me vitamins at night, I'm like, oh, that's just my nurse coming to feed me my pills. And then I go back to my little mental asylum shenanigans.
You gotta stop breathing sometimes. You know? Touch some grass.
So Stuart, her husband that she kind of wants to punch in the face, tells Molly he's going to be home early that night, which she has a pickle about this. And I didn't know this was a thing until my sister had 2 kids. Early to Stuart means early enough that Molly is still awake, but late enough that he doesn't have to shower their 2 sons and help put them to bed, which according to my sister is absolute hell on earth. The planet is on fire every time she tries to put the girls to sleep. That's early to Stuart. And when he gets home, she knows what the schedule is going to be. He's going to want to do it. And she doesn't want to do it with some fucker who comes home after she has to put the kids to sleep by herself. Back then, when they were married without kids, they used to do it 3 times a week. This is Molly and her husband, not my sister and her husband. Calm down, okay? They used to do it like 3 times a week. And now they're lucky if it's twice a month. And it's probably not even the good stuff. It's probably the, let's get this over with type of stuff. It feels like a wifely obligation. And Stuart feels like Molly's not that into it. So he tries to spice it up. But his version of spicing it up probably just pisses off Molly because his version is just a surprise finger in the bum bum.
What?
Yeah, he's like, let's spice up our marriage. Surprise! Finger in the bum bum. Okay, why are you giggling? Yeah. Well, so she's grabbing her jacket and running out of the house the minute Stuart comes home that night. Because she's like, I'm not trying to get a finger in the bum bum. This is her escape from the mental asylum. Kids are asleep. Stuart just got home and she's running outside. She has nowhere to go. And she runs into an old colleague of hers, Kayla. Kayla drags her to a bar and she's like, come, it'll be fun. I'm meeting with friends. She gets to this random bar in Brooklyn where all of Kayla's friends are there. Young, hot, childless people. And there's this man behind her with this deep voice, green eyes, wearing jeans, slim hips. He looks young. He looks like he's not a dad. He looks like a daddy, not a dad. He gets her a beer. I'm just curious, how did you end up getting dragged here? He's asking her, Molly.
How old is he?
He looks 8 years younger than her.
8 years younger. Okay.
He doesn't look, he is. He's 8 years younger than her.
So she's 40 and he's like 32.
Exactly.
Okay.
But he has a air of youth, the air of youth that someone without children can only have. You know what I mean? That's how Molly is describing these people.
Okay.
To her, there's people with kids and then people without kids. People without kids, they be living life. They be living, okay? So then he's like, where did Kayla drag you and find you? And she says, I escaped from the mental asylum. That's a pretty close guess to what I was thinking. You have the air of an escapee. And she's like, I have 2 kids. Already, red flags. Molly says she starts getting upset that she just confessed that she has 2 children. She keeps hiding her hands when she realizes that she still has her wedding band on and she's regretting telling him that she's a middle-aged woman with kids. But instead, this guy named Matt is quite understanding.
Is Matt also real? Everything's real.
Everything's
right?
real. These people are all real.
So she's like exposing these people too?
I don't know if she changed their names.
Oh, okay.
She doesn't really put their last names, I think.
Okay, got it.
And he's like, no, I get it. I mean, not personally. I don't have kids, but my sister has 2 kids. She lives in Iowa, but I visit her a lot. That's probably how I recognize the look on your face. So she has no makeup on. You know, she barely put on deodorant this morning. She's been running after the kids all day. And she's like, it's that obvious. Not in a bad way. You just look like someone who needs to decompress. So that night.
Damn, he's smooth.
Oh, yeah. That night they played darts. Matt pays for all of Molly's drinks because she didn't bring her wallet. And by the end of the night, Molly writes her number down and gives it to Matt. The purpose is that she owes him. But Kayla's so confused. Why are you giving your number to Matt? Matt is 8 years younger than you, which is besides the point because you're married with kids. And Molly's trying to reassure her, it's literally nothing. I am married, Kayla. Yeah, if you say so. It is the best night that Molly has had since her kids were born, which makes her kind of feel shitty and guilty. So she rushes home, and the minute that she steps out into her Brooklyn apartment, the toys are everywhere. Everything is everywhere. It's a mess. It's back to mom life. She runs into the bedroom, and Stuart is awake, reading on the bed. Look who's back! She feels like a little twinge of guilt. She runs into the restroom, and she pees with the door open. Because that's what you do when you have 2 kids and you're married. And she's sitting on the toilet. I thought you would be home in less than an hour. I would have called you, Molly, but you left your phone. Sorry.
She left her phone?
Yeah.
That is crazy.
So where were you? I was getting worried. I didn't even make it down the street. I ran into Kayla and we went out for a few drinks. Kayla? Yeah, one of my teaching friends. You never met her? So weird. Ah. Then who's Matt? She's
That's
like,
fucking crazy.
what the f-? She flushes the
This
toilet.
is unreal.
Yeah, no, it gets worse. This is nothing, honey. This is elementary. Just you wait. She flushes the toilet to buy some time. Matt? Oh, Matt. He was at the bar with Kayla. I think he's one of Kayla's friends. How do you know Matt? He sent you a text a few minutes ago. Oh. What did it say? Stuart reads it in a sexy voice.
Great meeting you tonight, Molly. I hope we can do it again soon, Matt.
I said, he was at the bar with us. I had to flirt my way into getting a few drinks because I forgot my wallet. And he's like, well, looks like you did a great job in getting some free fucking drinks, bitch. Molly's face is turning red, but she's trying super hard to play it all cool. So like, it was nothing. And he asks her, are you going to see him again? What? No, why would I see Matt again? Why not? Because I'm married to you, remember? Oh, I remember. And we have kids, and Matt is young and single and definitely not interested. Well, he sounds interested. Seeing his text message made me a little crazy, actually.
Wow.
And she's like, what the fuck is going on? Oh, well, I don't know if she's thinking that. I'm thinking that for sure, though. Me, Stephanie Sue, reading this, I'm like, y'all are weird, okay? Yeah.
He's pissed or not pissed?
The energy is like horny.
Yo. Oh.
If I'm being so real with you right now. And, well, I'm glad you had fun, you know? And she's like, yeah, well, it's not happening. I'm not going to see him. And Stuart tells her, it'll happen if you let it happen. So I've decided that you can go out with him again, so long as you tell me everything. He wants her to porky Matt.
And he wants to know about it.
Oh, yeah. He wants to hear the details and think about it and talk about it and do all sorts of nasty stuff.
He wants to sit in the chair in the hotel room.
That's facing the bed, that singular armchair, the C-U-C-K chair. He said, that chair, I call dibs. That night, Molly can't sleep, okay? She's
So this is the
imagining-
first time Molly heard about this fantasy of his.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
And so she can't sleep. She's thinking about Stuart. She's thinking about Matt. She's thinking about Stuart. She's thinking about Matt. And nothing happens for the next few weeks. Molly and Stuart, they do it here and there. But the whole time, she's just imagining that it's Matt instead of Stuart.
Damn.
And so finally, she texts Matt back. And he asks her when she's available to grab a drink. And that night, she's in bed trying to very casually tell Stuart about it. Matt asked me to get a drink with him. Yeah? What did you say? I didn't respond yet. Well, I'm into it, baby. I promise. It's okay. Are you sure? I'm sure. She's trying to text Matt about Friday, but she wants to keep it chill. And now she's stressing out because she can't even talk to her friends about how to respond to him because all of her friends are married and with kids, and they know that she's married and with kids. How do you tell your best friend? No. Like, my husband actually wants me to. Okay? So Friday rolls around. She's so nervous. She can't even eat. Stuart is going to work late. The babysitter is coming. And right before the date, Stuart texts her, have fun tonight. I'll be thinking about you, ... This is her husband. They meet at the same bar. They hug. It feels like youth and freedom and desire, according to Molly. She finally feels pretty. She says it's interesting because Stuart used to make her feel pretty, but not anymore. And it's not even his fault. He still tells her that she's beautiful, but motherhood drained the pretty out of her. That's how she feels. She can barely focus on what they're talking about. At the bar, all she's thinking is, oh my God, our faces are so close together. And once in a while, their knees will keep touching each other. And then it hits her. She's like, how long have you lived in Brooklyn? She's asking Matt. Oh, my girlfriend and I just moved here a few months ago.
Bro.
We have a place nearby. How about you and your husband?
What
And
is going on?
Yeah, she's like, the floodgates open, and it feels like my husband, Stuart, is just sitting right here. And she starts rambling. She goes into mom mode. She goes into wife mode. Oh, we moved here right before Daniel was born, and Daniel's 6 now, so 6 years ago. And we're actually moving to a house soon, so I think we really like Park Slope. We're going to stay for good. We're going through renovations. It's a huge ordeal, but it'll be nice to have some more space. Who is she? Suddenly, she sounds like regular Molly, and she can't even help it. And this is a sobering thought. She pays for the tab and just leaves. She's like, I can't do this. What was I thinking? This is insane.
Wait, so I'm sorry, clarifying. Why? So the moment that he brought up that he has a girlfriend,
Yes.
she went back into the mom mode? Is that what you're saying?
And then he was like, how about you and your husband?
Oh, like the moment they bring their partner. So now, did she know Matt has a girlfriend?
She just found out.
Oh.
She just found out.
So what the is Mac doing here?
Exactly. Every single person in this book is deplorable. Every single person in this book, if they were admitted for a crime and they said, hey, Stephanie, can you be my character witness and say a few nice things about me? I will pay you $100,000. I would say absolutely not.
So Matt is
Yes.
in a relationship and Mac's trying to sleep with Molly. That's
Yes.
also in the marriage. Like he didn't care.
No.
He's like, let's just do it. Whatever.
Yeah. He said, let's just boink boink.
Okay.
She just pays the tab and leaves. And she says, I just didn't realize it was getting so late. Bye. And she's walking home about to cry. She feels, and like you would think that she's about to cry because you have this moment of, what am I doing? I'm a married woman and like this is so weird. But she's like, of course Matt has a girlfriend. Of course he wasn't just thinking about me, waiting for me to text him back. She writes, he probably finds me entertaining, an older woman who slobbers over him and boosts his ego. So already, I don't know if I like these people, okay? On the way back, she texts her husband, I'm on the way home now. Already? Yeah, it just didn't feel right. Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Are you okay? Should I come home? And she said that it feels odd. She doesn't want him to come home because she wants to mourn something that she never had. Also, you have a husband, lady. Which she's like, I just want to cry in bed alone thinking about losing Matt. And she's like, I'm fine. Just tired. I'm going to go to bed. And he's all, okay, I'm here if you need to talk about it. I love you. Love you too. So Molly and Stuart's intimate life gets really weird. Molly isn't thinking about Matt anymore, but it's all Stuart can think about, and it makes him extra excited in bed. He's all, imagine I'm Matt.
Wait, Stuart's like role-playing Matt? Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah, and then he calls Molly a CUNT in bed, and then she starts crying. I'm like, who are these people?
Whoa.
She just like bursts into tears in the third act type of crying. Are you mad at me? Oh, no, I didn't mean that in a bad way. I'm just like, I like imagining you with other men. It's part of what turns me on. But they just want different things with Matt, she says. For Stuart, he wants Matt to pork his wife. For Molly, she wants Matt to go on dates with, to cook dinner with, to have romantic hand-holding sessions with.
Oh.
Yeah. Then a year passes. There's going to be a surprise birthday party for Kayla, and she is invited, and so is Matt. Molly quickly RSVPs, and for the next 2 weeks, she keeps checking the email RSVP list to see if Matt is RSVPing.
Oh my goodness.
And finally, the party rolls around, and she's reaching for the pitcher of beer, pouring herself a glass when she hears the voice behind her. Hey, can you pour one of those for me too? She turns around and it's Matt. Eyes are glistening. Sure. Have you been? Fingers touch when she passes the beer. Electricity, sparks fly. I've been good. How about you? See, this is why I can't read nonfiction unless it's like, well, I just can't read this type of nonfiction. You know what I mean? Because these people are too real. These people are too real. I like my books where the love interest is, first of all, not married with a husband. Everybody's single. And then it's like a man in a suit walks into a bar. He just inherited $25 trillion. You know, but then this one is like so just real life. Just, I've been good. What about you? Like, it's so normal. Okay. Good. It's been over a year since they saw each other. And that night they get drunk and they get this private small karaoke room inside the bar and they sing a duet.
Oh, just them two?
Just them two. And as they're singing a duet, he comes up behind her, pulls her towards him. He rests his chin on the top of her head and her butt fits perfectly into his waist.
No way.
Oh yeah.
She said all that?
Yeah, she said all of that. And when the song is over, he says, best $10 I ever spent. Which again, see, this is why I can't read nonfiction books. Like, I need my men to spend, I don't know, $5 trillion on me before they can fall in love. Like, the man needs to give up his fairy kingdom for her first. And then I'll be like, fine, I will approve this kissing that you guys are doing now. It's fine now, okay? And so they're staring at each other and it's about the time to kiss. But instead, she's like, I gotta go. She leaves and at home, she's freaking the fuck out. And of course, her husband notices. He's all, you haven't done your eyes like that in a while. You look nice. And she's trying to be all busy, but all she can do is she wants to go to bed and replay the night's events over and over and over in her head. But Stuart, her husband, is bothering her. He's following her around. And finally she tells him, okay, Matt was there. Molly, I know, you're not that hard to read. So what happened? He kept refilling my glass without realizing how much I had to drink, and I promised to sing a duet with him. I didn't think that he would hold me to it, and before I knew it, he put his arms around me, and Stuart is loving it. Stuart's like, hey, you know what Matt is probably doing right now? And she's like, what is he doing right now? He's probably on the couch thinking about everything he wishes he did with you.
Dude, this is like crazy.
Yeah, and then Molly closes her eyes and they do it. Her and Stuart, her husband, do it, but she closes her eyes and she's not imagining her husband, she's imagining Matt. The next day, she tells her like mom friend about what happened with Matt, and she's all, and Stuart wants me to sleep with him. It turns him on. And at the end of the play date, her friend slips her a business card. Look, I'm not telling you what to do, but it's a really good therapist I used to see. Yeah.
They were like, you need help?
Yeah, so they hug. And as she ushers her kids out of the house, she's like, you know what? I'm going to text Matt and not the therapist. And she's all, hey there, what are you doing later? And they start talking and she's like, well, I got to take the kids to the playground. And he's like, well, why don't you put them to bed and meet me at this new bar that I've been trying to try? And they decide to meet at 9 p.m. Bar. They walk in, sexual chemistry. She's been waiting for this moment. Even at the playground with her kids, she was on autopilot. She was all like, yay, you're doing so great, sliding down the slide. Anyone can fucking slide down the slide, bitch. Slide down the slide some more. But she's not thinking about it. She's thinking about Matt. Finally, he says, do you want to come over? What? My girlfriend's out of town. I live close by. I'd really like you to come over. See, this is why nobody's redeemable. Because sure, Molly has the permission, not the permission, but she has the consent from her husband to see Matt. But the fact that she knows Matt has a girlfriend.
And we don't know if the girlfriend has like okays this.
No, she hasn't. It's pretty clear in the book.
Oh, he's behind her back.
Yes.
Wow.
And Molly wants him to feel like she's doing this behind Stuart's back too.
Oh.
Because he's having emotional turmoil.
Okay.
He's all like, maybe we shouldn't because I have a girlfriend. And then she's all like, maybe we shouldn't because I have a husband.
Oh.
I know. I'm telling you.
Complicated.
It's not complicated. It's morally corrupt.
Yeah, it is. But like the game that she's playing.
Yeah,
wow.
I know. So that's what I'm saying. It's hard. If she was just going after a single dude, It's like, okay, you and your husband are a little kinky, but this is weird.
Yeah.
So they go to the apartment and she's about to do it, but she runs out into the rain, super stressed. Like they were making out in his studio apartment, and that's when it hits her. Oh my God, this guy is young and he lives in a studio apartment and he's got a girlfriend and I gotta go. She runs out and she texts Stuart everything that's happened. Like we were making out in his apartment and I just couldn't do it. So I'm now outside. And she finally texts her husband, should I go back to Matt's place? And he says, go for it. She runs back, knocks on his door, and before he can even open the door, her shirt is all the way unbuttoned and her boobies out. And they do it. Yeah.
What?
When she gets home, Stuart asks, how was it, my sexy wife? Oh, it was fun. But what she wants to say is she wants to go back and hang out with Matt. And I'm like, this is so bad, but it gets worse. That weekend, Molly and the kids are going to visit Molly's mom, which is the perfect time, so fucking convenient for Stuart, her husband, to casually bring up, so Lena invited me over this weekend while you guys are out of town at your mom's.
Wait.
Lena, as in your ex-girlfriend? Yeah, I think I told you she's going through a pretty rough divorce. She just wants to talk.
That is wild. And what's her like reaction at that point?
She wants to sob, throw up, and die. She's like, just talking, huh? I think so, but... And Molly's like, I don't like this, but she's also telling us through the book, like, I did just sleep with a guy, and while his girlfriend is out of town, I don't know what's going on, and now Stu's bringing this up. And he said, but what if it's not just talking? You know, how would you feel about that? Not great. Molly says out of all the girlfriends Stuart's had, Lena is the only one that broke up with him, and they remained friends afterwards. She is older than Molly, and I don't know why Molly feels the need to include this, okay? But she's like, also, I'm like kind of hotter than her, basically is what she says. So I was never jealous of her because I'm hotter than her, and she's older than me. And I'm like, girl, I feel like you do need that therapist. You should call her up ASAP or call him up ASAP. And she's like, I'm not sure. And she feels like she wants to throw herself onto the ground, cry in a fetal position. But she says, I guess it's okay. I mean, it's not fair if I'm the only one who gets to. And he's all, cool. I mean, I doubt anything's going to happen. She's still pretty hung up on her husband. But I just wanted to make sure you're okay, just in case. Uh-huh. I get it. And you're sure it's okay? Yep. And she looks at him and she's thinking, does he know I'm lying? And I'm like, bitch, of course he knows you're lying. Like, he knew that you went and hung out with Matt without you even telling him, and suddenly he's fucking dense and doesn't know that you're lying? He could tell. But instead he's all, I'll drive you to the airport tomorrow. I have so many things to say. This is when I decided I hate everyone in this book, because it feels like he conveniently tells her nonstop, and you'll notice this as a pattern. He tells her, you can go do these things with other men just so he could do it with other women.
Yeah.
And then also an open relationship, and then suddenly an ex-girlfriend that's completely different from Matt down the block, and then an ex-girlfriend with so many emotional baggage.
Yeah. So
And- yes.
does this sound like he's already planned this from the get-go?
Yeah.
He's like, okay, the moment that she does this, then I can do A, B, C, D, E right
Yeah,
after.
I feel like he's manipulating
Yeah.
and plotting.
Yeah.
And then the fact that
And she's like, at this point, she already slept with Matt, so what can you say and do now? Like,
yes, but also it's so crazy to me that these two people have children together, because I feel like we could be having an argument about bagels and I would feel very comfortable telling you that's not the same thing. Like, I feel like in this moment, if you're in a loving marriage, you could say easily, well, I don't feel like that's appropriate because it's not the same thing. Like, she feels guilty and pressured into saying yes because she slept with Matt. But also, it's not the same thing. It's an ex-girlfriend. It's very different. She goes to her parents' house. I think they live in Chicago. And it's just the whole weekend. She can't think about anything but Stuart and his ex-girlfriend, Lena. She's taking care of the kids. She's taking care of her sick mom. But again, all she can think about are Stuart and Lena. And she also reminisces back to, I believe, 6 years ago, before she gave birth to their first son. Her aunt had randomly told her that her mom had an affair with her best friend. So Molly's mom had an affair. And Molly's aunt was like, oh, your mom's not perfect. She be cheating on your dad. And I don't know why she just thinks about that. I guess the open relationship and all of this is bringing it to the forefront of her brain. And she's thinking about all of this and the harsh realities of motherhood. And finally, she confronts her mom about it. And her mom is just very nonchalant. Like, she asks her mom, does dad know about what you did with Jim, your best friend, how you had an affair? And she's all, yeah, it was your dad's idea.
No freaking way.
So she's like, what the fork is going on? She lands back in LaGuardia. Stuart picks him up from the airport, and suddenly, Stuart that she didn't want to see, Stuart surprise finger in the bum bum, suddenly he's a hottie with the bottle body. She's like, I have never realized how sexy my husband is.
What do you mean?
Because I guess he spent the weekend with the ex-girlfriend, she suddenly appreciates her husband more. She's like, my husband is so hot. I should tell him that more.
Wait, what?
That's what I heard in a lot of healthy open relationships. Clearly, this is not a healthy representation. But from there was a brief moment where TikTok, my FYP, was all these polyamorous relationships because there was like a thing on TikTok. People talk about their relationships and then there's a lot of engagement because people are like, I could never, right? And everyone's saying you find your partner hotter because other people want your partner.
Oh, yeah. That's okay, got
Yeah,
it.
so then she's all like, he's so hot. He's got such a tight ass. And I'm like,
What?
this is a lot going on right now, okay? When they finally get home, the kids are in their rooms and she asks him the question that she's been dreading. And she's all, did you sleep with her? And he says, yes. She collapses onto the ground, fetal position, which, you know what? How the is that fair? Again, this is his ex-girlfriend. It almost feels like he set it up. And she's so distraught about it. But that night, he's mad at her. They sit on the couch. And he seems agitated. And he tells her, I don't know how to talk to you about this. I don't want to feel guilty about doing something you gave me permission to do.
Of course.
Imagine being fetal position crying and your husband is like, well, you told me I could. And he says, I don't think that I should have told you about Lena. I'm into hearing about you and Matt, but I don't know. You don't feel the same way about me being with other women. So I just want you to know that Lena is never going to replace you. She is my friend, and that is it. Just like you and Matt, it doesn't mean anything. Again, Molly's head is spinning. Meanwhile, the skull density of Stuart's head appears to be getting thicker and denser. He says, but I will admit, it feels good to be seen as attractive, you know? And Molly is just sobbing. She's like a mess right now. Because kind of true, she says she doesn't remember the last time she told Stuart he's sexy, but regardless. And he picks up her limped hand and he says, I think we have a decision to make. Do you want to stop? Molly's going through it in her head. On one hand, she doesn't want to see Stuart with anybody else, but also at the same time, she doesn't want to stop seeing Matt. So there's that. And in that moment, Molly's so confused, she doesn't even respond. And this Stuart says, I love you, baby. I will always love you. But why don't we try a new rule? I'm not going to tell you anything more about what I'm doing. Okay? But you have to tell me everything.
What?
Bruh.
How is that fair?
Rage. I just felt rage. Okay. Over the next 4 years... Again, if you guys are into polyamory, I'm sorry. This is like the worst representation of polyamory. And if you guys are thinking about polyamory, I do think that this book could be a cautionary tale of what it should not be. This is literally the stereotypical, your husband gaslit you into being in an open relationship that you never actually wanted. So then you gaslight yourself into thinking that you wanted it, that you see on Reddit. So over the next 4 years, they embark on an open relationship, and Molly only sleeps with Matt a handful of times because he has a girlfriend. And usually when the girlfriend is out of town, she'll go, or when Stuart and the kids are out of town, he'll come. But now that, now every time that they sleep together, Matt will text her, I can't do this anymore. I feel too guilty. I can't do this to my girlfriend. Molly will cry, she'll mope around and then try to focus on the kids. And then slowly Matt will come around again and then they'll text and then they'll boink and then it'll happen all over again. And she will, of course, talk about all the things she does with Matt while in bed with Stuart, but she will freeze when he puts her in a pose that feels unfamiliar. The question being, where the hell did he learn to do this? just like the worst marriage ever, just like not healthy in any sense of the word. And one day she's confronted with it because she's doing the laundry. She clears out his pants pocket, pulls out what feels like a credit card. It's like a key card for the Hilton Hotel. She almost feels like he left it on purpose. She's jealous, but she's angry, but she technically has no right to be angry. I don't know. Listen, it feels emotionally draining. I feel like even a long-term monogamous marriage, you already have so many things that are emotionally draining. Like, why did the bagel go missing? I don't know, okay? It's fulfilling and emotionally draining as it is. But then like to throw all this into it, it's like, calm down. We don't need all of this. Life is already a journey. But it gets worse for Molly when she brings Matt over to the house when the kids are asleep and Stuart is working late at the office. And she texts Stuart, Matt's still here, but he's not as great of a lover as you.
What?
Except she doesn't text Stuart that. She texts it to Matt on accident. And he comes out the shower. He thought they were both cheating because he would feel so guilty about his girlfriend. And she would all be like, I feel guilty too.
That's crazy.
And he's like, what the fuck? But also, I think Matt is weird too. This is what I'm saying.
And Matt got excited?
No, he got so upset. He's disgusted with her and runs out on her.
He says, how dare you not cheating on your husband?
Exactly.
How dare you do this consensually?
Exactly. That's why I'm like, every single person in this book, I don't like anyone.
What a psychology, right?
Yeah.
Now it makes it, I wonder what that feels like in that moment. Maybe like just exposes him as the worst human because he is the only one that's cheating actively.
And nobody else is.
Versus, I don't know. I mean, sure, like she's quote unquote lying to him, but.
So he in his mind probably thinks, this is how Molly thinks about it, okay? That he is torn. This is main character moment. He loves his girlfriend, but also Molly's ass is so juicy, right? But then now he feels like for Molly, he's just a fun time to be used by Molly and Stuart. Stuart likes to hear about it, so Molly will do it and then tell Stuart about it. He's a pawn in their marriage. Whereas to him, he thinks he's all conflicted. He's a tortured artist,
No way.
He's disgusted. He runs out on her and she feels this heartache, penetrating heartache. She talks about this heartache with Stuart. She talks about heartache about losing Matt, and just overall she's in so much pain. And they decide that they're going to take a break on this whole thing of an open relationship and go to couples therapy.
That's crazy. Okay.
And the therapist,
the therapist goes, I don't get paid enough for this. Just write a book.
Okay, so she actually sees an individual therapist and a couples therapist. There's a lot of therapy bills. This is what I'm saying. Like, also a lot of Goodreads reviews say that the privilege that they have is never addressed. They live in this really nice area in Brooklyn. They're constantly getting babysitters, paying for hotels. They got multiple therapists on call. Yeah, and she's just like over here, hee hee ha ha, I have the worst life ever. It's a very self-indulgent memoir, I will say that. And so she goes on to tell the therapist, and the therapist, her individual therapist, just tells her, I mean, you've told me why Stuart wants an open relationship. You've told me why your parents kind of had one, yet you've to tell me why you want an open relationship. So in this really weak moment of wondering, do I want a relationship that's open? She calls her mom and asks, do you think sleeping with other people will ruin my marriage? And her mom says, definitely not. Well, how can you?
Definitely not. It's crazy.
She's like, well, how can you be so sure, Mom? And she just explains, because you and Stuart have two magic ingredients. You guys talk to each other and you love each other. If you keep doing those two things, opening yourself up to new experiences can only make your marriage richer and stronger. Listen, I'm sorry. I don't think that they have good communication in their marriage, but I digress. And she's all, Mom, you make it sound so easy. Was it easy for you and Dad? Didn't Dad get jealous? Didn't you get jealous? She says, I can't speak for your father's experience, but I will say it's not easy. Not one bit. We sometimes stayed up all night talking things through, but if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. But Mom, you and Jim, the guy that you had an open relationship with, were best friends. You know, you guys are still friends. The guy that you were porking on the side. Maybe that's why you have no regrets. I barely know Matt, and he's so upset with me. Oh, sweetheart, don't you worry. There will be many more.
There will be many more Matt.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so bizarre.
Like I said, everyone is weird. Okay? Just, I don't know. Okay, here's what I think is weird. It's not the fact that her mom was also in an open relationship. It's the fact that nobody is honest about anything. I don't think an open relationship is for every marriage or for everyone. And like clearly the way it happened for Molly, I feel like a good mother or a good friend would tell her, this feels a little gaslighty. Like you should really think about it. It's only your decision to make. But instead, everyone's like, fuck yeah. It's the only way to live. It's so bizarre. Okay. And that's when Molly realizes it wasn't just once that her mom had an affair or whatever. So this next thing she decides, okay, I am going to have an open relationship with my husband, Stuart, but I'm going to make rules. So here are her rules. Don't date an ex-girlfriend. Don't date an ex. Don't date anyone in the neighborhood. Don't date anyone that lives long distance. Don't date anyone you work with. Don't fall in love. Only go on a date night when I also have a date. So she's telling Stuart, you can only go on a date when I have a date. No going to anyone's house. No daytime dates. No sleeping over. No dating anyone you might fall in love with. No playing chess or watching a movie because those are things only we do. Don't date anyone too young. Don't show me pictures of who you're dating for at least a year. Tell me a little bit, but not too much. And seriously, no falling in love. And don't text me right after a date. Which sounds like she has boundaries and rules for life, right? Okay, so tell me why Molly, who is free to sleep with whomever she pleases, decides that she's going to go on Ashley Madison to find dates.
Okay. What? Oh, everyone's like, wait.
Married. Ashley Madison, everybody's married.
Okay.
So I'm like, why would you do that? Why don't you just go on Tinder and go sleep with a bunch of single men? Because you consent, the men consent, and Stuart consents. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
But she goes and exclusively finds married men who want to cheat on their wives. And it's very clear throughout the book that Molly has a lot of insecurities, and she kind of feels power, I think, in that. I don't know. It's just...
So how did she justify her going on, Ashley Madison or whatever?
I guess they're going to cheat anyway.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's saying these men are wanting to cheat regardless. I might as well just sleep with one of them.
Yeah.
I see.
She goes on the website, and the tagline for the website is, life is short, have an affair. Men must pay, women are free to join. Also taking the morally questionable actions another step further, she constructs an alter ego on Ashley Madison as a, quote, spicy Latina. Yeah, basically, if you will. To say that, okay, she just casually says, the twin sins of cultural appropriation and misrepresenting myself to men with Latina fetishes hardly seems important in the world of Ashley Madison. She's like, bruh, these men are bad anyway, so like what I'm doing is not that bad.
Wow.
What the fuck? Okay, she also writes, within 24 hours, Mercedes is a hit on the website. And she writes, and she eats up the attention like a warm plate of churros. Imagine she's creating an alter ego of a submissive Korean woman on a dating website. I love being bossed around. I'm so submissive because all East Asian women are so submissive. And she eats up the attention like fucking Korean barbecue and kimchi. I'd be like, you are so racist. Like she's racist, okay? Allegedly. No. Her first date is with this guy named Mike at a bar. And he's just so shocked that she looks like the photos on Ashley Madison. And he goes on this full rant about how another date that he went on, trials and tribulations, the picture that he saw of the woman he thought he was going on a date with looked 20 years old. She looked 20. And the picture of her is standing in front of a massive billboard. And it's the billboard for a James Bond movie that recently came out. So it must be her, right? But then she shows up 30 years older. And he's telling Molly, I don't know how she aged so fast. It doesn't make sense. So I was trying to nicely ask her, because I can't just be like, hey, so in the span of like 2 weeks, how did you fucking age 3 decades? And she just explains, oh yeah, that's my daughter's picture. But everybody says we look exactly alike.
Bro, using your daughter's photo on a cheating website, dating website is like, wow.
Yeah.
Dude,
Didn't I tell you everyone, the bar is in hell? Like everybody's in hell. This is a book from people in hell. This is what hell feels like. And then the fact that he's talking to Molly about it as if like he went through so much in his life, trials and tribulations. It's just so hard to cheat on my wife with someone hot. Like that's the way he's presenting this information.
Oh my God.
And he's impressed by Molly and he says, I just have to say that you are absolutely gorgeous. Way hotter than even that lady's daughter. Molly says this is exactly the validation that she craves. Molly takes Mike to a cheap motel, which it's crazy because she's very raw in the book. When she's at the bar with Mike, it's this hot and steamy experience, but suddenly the place looks gross. The lobby is gross for this motel. They're glancing around. They try to get hot in the elevator, but it's just awkward and gross. Once they get up to their room, they got to use the restroom, and his hard drive keeps going into soft pillow mode. And then she's just trying to get it over with using her oral devices. And again, this man is married, and Molly writes, I do derive a kind of pleasure. I imagine this is the first satisfying orgasm he's had in years. And she says, and I feel special.
She's honest, huh?
Yeah.
Is she very, very honest about everything?
Yeah, so honest that it's like a train wreck. And you can't stop reading. She needs 25 therapists. But she, I don't know if her honesty comes from a place of wanting to be as raw as possible or the fact that she thinks that this is totally normal. I feel like she thinks this is totally normal, if I'm being honest with you. And then Mike makes a whole spiel about like, oh, that was great, you were great, but I got to catch a train, you know what I mean? And he leaves her in the room, enveloped in sadness, she says. And even though none of this was fun, she gets sad when it takes Mike 2 days to text her back. And he texts her, can't stop thinking about your mouth. We should do that again sometime. Which is why she tells her therapist, I think I'm going to date multiple guys. That's what Stuart does. He's dating like 4 women right now. But Molly feels like things are getting better. She's got 2 men on rotation that are super fun in bed, experimental even. One of them is like half French, and he's got a French accent that she keeps writing into the book. Like everything she says, is is. Yeah. Anytime he talks, it's easy.
Easy.
It's always, it is sexy, no? Like very like that. Okay, and I'm like, I feel
so
like.
So she's writing it in okay. And you're like trying to read it in that voice.
Yes, and then I'm like, is this okay? Like, am I gonna get canceled for that? I'm reading it in my head like that, and I'm like, this feels wrong. But I can't not read it because it's easy. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So one of them tells her to go to the adult shop to purchase something to put in her bum bum. And she goes and she buys it and she tries to experiment it with that at home because she had talked to the sales lady who sold it to her. And they were like, yeah, you got to start with like 10 minutes first, then 15 minutes. And then some people love it. They like sleep with it. And she's like, that's weird. I can't imagine just like catching some Z's with this in my butt. But
bun bun.
Bun bun. She puts it in her bun bun and then she texts Stuart to come upstairs. And like I said, she's rich because like upstairs in New York, come upstairs is crazy, okay? She's like, come upstairs to see what she's doing. I guess he takes too long doing whatever he does for work. And she's just face down, bum up with something in her butt. And he just walks in and is like, is this an invitation? But at this point, it's no longer pleasurable. She said, at this point, it's just painful, And she said, well, that's what I was thinking when I texted you, but now it's starting to hurt. And he looks confused and she starts getting angry. Why did you take so long to come upstairs? And he's like, why are you angry with me? You bought a toy to use with your boyfriend and you're yelling at me because I couldn't come up fast enough to test drive it? And she starts screaming and crying. I bet you took your time because you're so tired from having sex with like a million other women that you don't even want to have sex with me anymore. Which you would think, okay, can I just say throughout the book, Molly has multiple mental breakdowns. What is going on, okay? when I have a mental breakdown, it's a mental breakdown and you want support from your partner, regardless of what the mental breakdown is. Molly has so many mental breakdowns, and not once is Stuart like, you know what, maybe an open relationship is not what we need because it's clearly mentally affecting you. Not once. Honey, is that not crazy?
Yeah.
And so he's just like, a million women? I'm glad you think I'm such a Casanova, Molly, but that's a slight exaggeration, don't you think? And Molly just feels upset. She feels like Stuart is winning this open marriage competition, and he tells her, you know why, right? Because I date women and you date men, and we both know men suck. Yeah, so do you, Stuart. I don't know what to say, okay? Yeah, and it's just kind of shitty. She goes on to detail how none of the guys she goes on dates with wants to spend money on her because a lot of them are in marriages, so they can't spend money. And they buy cheap motels or hotels, or they have her book an office space, and then she gets fined a bunch of money because you're not supposed to be doing it at a fucking WeWork.
What?
Yeah.
How do you even do that?
Yeah.
On the table?
Yeah. And Stuart is out here paying for dinners before every hotel room date. Also, one of them keeps slipping out protection while she's not looking and putting both her and her husband and all of his partners at a health risk. She also does not tell Stuart about it. It's just, everyone is deplorable. Everybody is deplorable. But she does tell him that one of her guys asked her to wax, which is a huge insecurity she has.
What's wax?
Wax down there.
Oh.
Yeah. And she asks Stuart, her husband, if his girlfriends are waxed. Again, these conversations are like a nightmare. You know, at some point, I have to think Stuart is her husband. At some point in the book, he's going to behave like her husband, right? No, we're like 100 pages in, bitch, okay? And he just says, yeah, they are. And he says, but I'm fine with it either way. I like your little bush, hobbit. You're my little hobbit. He calls her hobbit.
Dude.
Again, I don't know if I'm just sensitive,
This
but
is crazy.
everything that comes out of Stuart's mouth, like to call your wife a hobbit is some nasty work, brother. Okay, it's some nasty work. I would probably get a divorce right then and there. Anyway, the eldest son is 13 by this point. They've been in an open relationship for quite some time. And the eldest son texts Molly one day while she's traveling for work. I don't even know what any of these people do for a living, okay? And he texts her, Mom, are you in an open relationship? She freaks the fuck out, calls him at the gate. Calls him at the gate while she's itching her crotch.
Why?
'Cause she got a wax.
Oh my gosh.
And it's itchy. And, he says that he was at home with dad and dad's computer was open and saw his OkCupid profile. What's it where it said that they were in an open relationship. And he thought that dad lied. And he's confronting mom, and she confesses, well, it wouldn't be fair if only dad was in an open relationship, right? And he agrees. And I'm like, how is any of this normal? How is any of this okay? But life is getting for Molly because instead of feeling empowered, she just feels used by the guys that she's dating. She feels like a booty call. She doesn't even get a glass of water afterwards, just getting kicked out. And she can't help but wonder why. Why is Stuart having a blast and she's not doing so hot in this open marriage thing? Her escapades are just getting worse. She starts going to the Liberty Inn with one of the guys. The furniture is covered in plastic. It's a cash preferred type of place. The front desk will call the room before cash runs out on the time. It's like hourly, not nightly. There's mirrors on the ceiling. Also, most of them have a wife, and tries to convince her to go to a group sex club in Manhattan. She doesn't want to go. She feels uncomfortable, and he tells her, perhaps it's time for him. This is the French guy. Perhaps it's time for me to find a new button. I'm like, what?
What button?
And Molly says that when they first started dating, the French guy's mom told him, and he told her subsequently, women are like buttons. If you lose one, you can always find another. This man is married.
Damn.
This man is married. So
Wow.
she says no to a sex club. He gets very offended, tries to manipulate her, and tries to guilt trip her into going to a sex club. And she says no. And he says, okay, time for me to find a new bitch. That's when she has a full-blown mental breakdown. And that is how she and Stuart find themselves at a nice old lady's office, a couples therapist. Molly starts talking first. We're here because I don't want to be in an open relationship anymore, but Stuart wants to be. Stuart tells the therapist, it's not that I want to keep the marriage open regardless of Molly's feelings. It's just she's unhappy right now and I get it. What if she gives it time, she will find somebody new and feel differently. So Stuart is arguing that Molly wants to constantly close the relationship nonstop when she's having a bad time with her guys. But then the minute that she's having a great time with the guys that she's seeing, she loves an open relationship. But Molly's like, I don't want someone new. I just want you, Stuart. And he says, you have me. You always have me. Well, it doesn't feel that way. I feel so alone. You're not alone. I'm here right next to you right now. Which, what the fuck? The fact that she's crying and he still says that is kind of insane. So in couples therapy, she tries to tell him, I want you to take me to breakfast. Last week, you took Beth out for breakfast and it hurt my feelings because you and I never do that anymore. And I love breakfast. And he says, you certainly do. I will take you out to breakfast this week. Pick a day when you don't have workshops or meetings, and we will go while the kids are at school. Is that it? And then suddenly she says, well, now I feel like you're just checking an item off the list. I want you to want to go to breakfast with me and for it to be your idea. And now he gets mad. Oh, I can never win. No matter what I do, she's always upset. And the couples therapist is just like letting this happen. It's like the worst advice. Then afterwards, she's like, you know what? I'm going to give up Ashley Madison, not because it's a morally bankrupt thing to do, but because I'm going to try OkCupid because that's what Stu does. And Stuart's having a good time on OkCupid. So she goes on OkCupid.
Is that just a regular dating site?
Yes, but you can also say like open relationships. So you can meet other people in polyamorous relationships, right? Molly then goes on to OkCupid and she creates this whole profile explaining that she's in an open marriage. Now, she meets her next friend, probably the only redeemable character in this book, maybe, a guy named Liam. And he tells her that he's solo poly. So this is like the first person in a healthy polyamorous situation. Solo poly meaning that he's solo for life. He never wants to get married, but he takes relationships very seriously. And it's fascinating, like when Molly writes about him, the way that he interacts with her, she says, this is a man that's not afraid to fall in love. So he's just falling in love with everyone. And he feels like partners and romantic relationships are like friendships. Lifelong, very serious, loving relationships. Sometimes friendships don't work out. You feel the pain. And that's the life that he lives. He is so open that he even meets partners through other partners, which she thinks is crazy because the idea of liking Stuart's girlfriend is insane to her. Like to her, Stuart's girlfriends are like her enemies. And he tells her, I'm assuming you haven't experienced compersion yet. And she's like, what? Compersion. It's the positive feeling you get when your partner is with someone else. Kind of like the opposite of jealousy. And she's like, no, I've definitely never experienced that one.
I didn't know there's an opposite of jealousy.
Yeah. Compersion.
Compersion.
Yeah.
I gotta work on myself a bit to see if I can find that feeling somewhere.
It's usually for open relationships.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. So the compersion, he says it's in a book that you need to read. And she stops by The Strand, the bookstore, and she buys a book called The Ethical Slut, which, okay, some people say it's like the Bible for open relationships. But when I went on Reddit, because I was reading reviews about this book, other people were saying this book was not the best. So I don't know. Take it as you will. And it's The Practical Guide to Polyamory, Open Relationships and Other Adventures. Now, according to Liam, polyamory is, it's supposed to be a good feeling. Everybody's supposed to have fun. There's not supposed to be negative aspects. So he invites her to poly cocktails where you meet other poly people, to which that night she casually asks Stuart, well, I don't know what their kids are doing. Oh, they're on their way to see the kids at the kids' play. So they're getting dinner before they go to the kids' school to watch the kids having a play. And he's like, oh, yeah. I was dating a girl named Tinkerbell. She's just like, okay, I'm going to go jump off the roof now. And he's like, yeah, I was dating a girl named Tinkerbell and she took me to poly cocktails. I wasn't really into it because it felt like everybody goes to poly cocktails so that you meet other poly people and then you go to a second location where you just have like a big orgy. And then she's like, so why weren't you really into Tinkerbell? Oh, she's got tattoos all over her back and her nipples are pierced. And you know I'm not that into that kind of stuff. First of all, it's hot, bitch. Okay, second of all, what? And she's like, was there anything you liked about Polly Cocktails? And he said it was fun, you know, the part where you just like watch everyone do it all together at the same time. He said it's having a front row ticket to your own intimate video. This is the type of feeling. So she's like, okay, maybe not my type of thing. Then the next person she starts dating is a guy named Carl, because Liam is too healthy for her, I think, is the feeling I get. I don't know. She starts dating a guy named Carl, who is engaged to a woman, Martina. Martina wants to have an open relationship because she's into other women. So she wants to have relationships with women outside of her marriage to Carl. And Carl gets to see other women because he's straight and just wants to have fun. He invites her over one day, and their house in Brooklyn, their apartment in Brooklyn, is like a spa. He even offers to give her a foot massage, and she feels like she's breaking all of the cardinal rules. Because first of all, he lives in the neighborhood, and she feels like she's already falling in love with this guy. His sheets are hotel grade. The lights are dimmed beautifully. Candles are lit, and it is the biggest, best destination she's been to in her entire life, she says. I know.
Wow.
And then she turns around and she's having like a post-happiness glance, and she sees this giant portrait on the wall of a naked woman with like a perfect supermodel figure. And she's like, who's that? Body like a cello, the instrument. Carl's like, oh yeah, that's my wife, Martina.
Okay.
So she's jealous. She goes home and she feels like she's falling in love with Carl.
He hung his naked fiance portrait
Yes.
on the wall.
Yes.
Damn.
I mean, they live together.
Yeah, but still, that's crazy.
Yeah, I guess.
Imagine like I hang you picture like
Oh, yeah, it's
as a
lot.
piece of art. Like,
I mean, I think it's beautiful, but also like imagine when the maintenance man comes over.
yeah, exactly.
You know,
like,
it's kind of like.
hey, my wife.
So it's very interesting. That night, Carl texts her that Martina came home and said that she is glad he did not change the sheets because she likes the smell of Molly's remnants, which Molly is so confused by because she doesn't like the smell of anything Stuart's girlfriend. So how is Martina just so open? But regardless, she tries going on other dates, but she and Carl decide that they're going to remain monogamous. Okay, this is so weird. This is very weird. Basically, they're in open relationships and they're married to other people. However, they're not going to date other people other than themselves.
I am so lost.
They're in
Okay.
open relationships, they're married, but other than their married partners, they're not going to date anyone else but each other. So Carl and Molly are getting extra serious.
Okay,
They
okay.
decide that they're going to delete their OkCupid profiles so that they can exclusively date each other and, you know, their actual partners.
Okay.
Again, I think polyamory is beautiful. I think open relationships are beautiful. I think this is just
Okay.
it's just fascinating, okay? But now it's causing problems in her actual marriage. At couples therapy, Stuart tells the couples therapist, it's hard to say what is wrong, but ever since she started dating this guy, Carl, I mean, he lives nearby, and I feel like she's always running over to his apartment. And when she's not over at Carl's place, she's texting him and talking about him. I feel like she's not really present with me anymore. Like, you know what happened the other night? And Molly's like, what happened the other night? Apparently, Sunday rolled around, Molly's making dinner, boys are playing video games, and Stuart is working in the dining room, and he loved how nice it was that everyone was together for once. And then he glanced at her phone, and she had texted Carl, I wish I could just escape and come over right now. Which, like, she's fucking making dinner. What do you expect for her to be like, no, Carl, I'm having the best time of my life? Molly's pissed. And she's like, I know it hurts, but you've been escaping from us for years. You never wanted to be home, and I was the one doing this for years and years and years. I did all the bedtimes, I did all the pickups, I did the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the shuttling the kids to the birthday parties and after school activities. So yeah, maybe it is my turn for an escape. And Stuart's like, shit. And the therapist is like, shit. Okay, everyone's just doesn't know what to do. Then Later that month, Molly meets Martina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's snow sledding on the hill. It's snowing, and everybody's sledding down the hill. It's like a small neighborhood. Martina's there with Carl. And they got friends with kids. So they're like, everybody's sledding down the hill. And she runs into Martina, and Martina does not look happy. She's stiff as a board. She's pissed. Carl claims it's because he forgot to mention how hot Molly is, but the whole thing is weird. So to make it up, Carl's like, maybe we should go to a bar and you and Martina can break ice. They go to the bar, and Martina is very weird. She's just weird. She just seems jealous and angry all the time. Carl tells me you skipped a grade. Are you like a genius or something?
Oh.
Definitely not. Well, Carl seems to think you are. Well, that's because he doesn't speak English. So he's like German. And she's like, haha, that's so true. And she starts giggling. It's weird. They're like bonding over making fun of him. She also makes fun of her own husband, Carl, the whole night. Martina does, about his weight, his lack of a steady paycheck, his poor English, everything.
Wow.
But at trivia night, Molly is answering all the questions correctly. And it's at the bar. It's trivia night. And it's pissing Martina off. And at the end of the night, Carl offers to walk Molly home. And Martina looks really pissed off, to which Molly says, no, it's okay, Carl. You don't have to do that. And Martina glares at him. No, he will walk you because that's clearly what he wants to do. He briefly steps aside to talk to his wife and then walks Molly home, even though the whole time she's insisting, like, you don't have to walk me home. Martina clearly is upset. And she's like, okay, if I tell you, you promise you're not going to get upset. Molly's like, I promise. She's jealous. Not that I'm with you, but that you are with me. And she's like, what? She thinks she would feel better if we all had a threesome.
Bruh, what is happening?
But only if you want to, no pressure.
So Martina likes her too.
Yeah, and then she remembers that Martina really likes straight women.
Okay.
Martina really likes to, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
To be the first. But then
Wow.
Molly remembers that she actually had a threesome early on in her relationship with Stuart's ex, which, by the way, they called Wild Wendy. They called the ex-girlfriend Wild Wendy. Okay, I hate this memoir so much, but it's so good because it's so bad that I couldn't stop reading. Okay, she continues to tell Carl, well, let me think about it. And that's all I would ever want you to do. For weeks, she's ruminating about it, talking to Stuart nonstop. Stuart is like trying to converse with her about anything.
Stuart is like, make it 4, please.
Yeah, come on, let's get this over with. Okay, I'll bring all my girlfriends. It could be 10 people, get it over with, and you can shut up about it. He's getting annoyed. And she ends up doing it. She doesn't end up loving it. Doesn't hate it as much as her first one, but is not a fan. Now, things get complicated when it's not just Carl that likes her, but Martina starts texting her too. And she's like, how does Martina have my number? And Carl is like, well, what do you mean? She asked for it, so I gave it to her. And then all of a sudden, Stuart informs her that Carl is back on OkCupid. And just like...
Stuart, how the...
Because
okay.
Carl just liked his girlfriend's profile, who is also
Oh my
polyamorous.
God, this is not real.
Yeah, so Stuart has an Australian girlfriend that he nicknamed Kiwi. I don't know if that's appropriate, okay? But that's what he nicknamed her, and that's the only way that Molly refers to her throughout the rest of the book. And she says, Kiwi is the one who attracted his attention. She's going to take both my husband and my boyfriend, and there's nothing I can do about it. She then proceeds to have another breakdown. And I get that this happened over 10 years, I assume. So I'm assuming there's greater length between, like, distances between the breakdowns. But it's starting to feel like an every Tuesday type of thing. And if it's an every Tuesday type of thing, perhaps maybe this is not the method of relationship you need in your life. I feel as if she just... I don't know, the answer is so clear. The answer is so clear. However, she gets ghosted by Carl. So she confronts him. She texts him, hey, you're on OkCupid. I thought we were going to delete OkCupid. I thought we were going to be monogamous. I thought we were falling in love. And he ghosts her. He freaking ghosts her. According to Molly's suspicions, Martina likes straight women, and it's Carl's job to bring them home to her. Just like how Matt was a pawn in her marriage with Stuart, she was a pawn in Carl and Martina's marriage. This is like the game that they play.
Wow.
So then she decides that she's going to date herself now. She has this whole like, I am a new woman type of thing. She starts boxing, plays the guitar, focuses on herself, on her relationship with her mom. I'm like, does this lady have a job? Okay. Then one day she's going off into nature and she goes on this little vacation with Stuart. And they go on this hike and he starts talking about Kiwi, his girlfriend, Australian girlfriend. And he says he found this trail because Kiwi loves it and her kids love it. And Molly gets pissed off because her kids are like fucking 5 years old and it makes her annoyed at herself because her kids are playing video games. But Kiwi's so fucking perfect. She takes her kids out into nature all the time. And he keeps going, did I ever tell you that one time Kiwi punched Evan, her husband, in the face? And she's like, no, why are we talking about Kiwi right now? No, you didn't tell me. A few years ago, when they first opened their marriage, Kiwi went on a bunch of dates before Evan even found anyone he wanted to date. So when he finally goes on a date with another woman, with Kiwi's full blessing, as soon as he gets back home, she punches him, closed fist, almost broke his nose, square in the face. Why the hell are you telling me this right now? Why is Kiwi's anger so goddamn amusing and my anger is something I'm never supposed to talk about? And Stuart tells her he can't do this anymore. He feels like she's always angry. Also, the fact that Stuart never really takes care of the kids and is like never home is like never addressed in this book. Like, he's just always like, why are you so angry all the time? And I'm like, I mean, I feel like I could list 20 reasons that you guys should probably fucking talk about, but they never really do. And when she brings it up in front of the couples therapist is like, yeah, whatever. So how many people are y'all fucking? Like, that's what it feels like. It's so horrendous. And he's like, you're just always angry all the time. I mean, depending on how good your relationships are, you're in a good mood and then you can't talk about anything but your relationships. Or if they're not going good, you're just angry all the time and it's always my fault. And he says, you know what's so ironic? Kiwi thinks you're amazing. The story I told you about how she punched Evan, she told me that while we were discussing you. I told her how you're taking a break from dating and you're still letting me date, which is amazing, Molly, and I don't take it for granted. Kiwi was saying how much she admires you for being able to do that, for giving me something that makes me so happy, even though it's hard for you. And I do thank you for that. I really do. And with that, Molly feels better. I don't know why. I don't know how. Maybe I'm just dense and dumb, okay? But Molly starts feeling happier. And then she starts dating this new guy, Scott. That's probably why she feels happier. And after a few dates, she recalls thinking, this is how I felt on my first date with Stuart. And then she falls in love with Scott. Scott does overnight, watches movies with her. She's breaking all the rules. Yeah, even takes her on a weekend fishing trip. She meets with Diana, Scott's wife.
Oh my goodness.
But when Stuart brings up potentially taking Kiwi to Vegas, she freaks out. I mean, clearly she knows it's unfair, but because she went on like a 3-day fishing trip with Scott. And then he's like, you know what? I was thinking about taking Kiwi to Vegas because you hate Vegas and I have to go to Vegas for that work thing that I have to do every year. I'm like, you have a job? Okay. And then she's like, how the fuck are you gonna bring Kiwi? It's a whole thing. Anyway. He goes to Vegas. She goes on that fishing trip. But while she's on that fishing trip, she realizes that Stu had invited Kiwi over to their marital home. She gets this like a Uber Eats order to the house, which, side note, he had mentioned, I'm going to spend the weekend with Kiwi, but we're going to get a hotel nearby. And she was like, oh, that's so silly because the kids are staying with the grandparents. I can't believe you guys booked a hotel. She says that in passing. He takes it as, you're right, I should cancel the hotel and have Kiwi come over to our marital home and like do it on our marital bed, which I don't know why she's freaking out because she brought Matt to their marital home. I digress, okay? So then she calls him in the middle of this fishing trip, freaks the fork out, and he's pissed saying, I'm sorry, I didn't read your mind when you said the opposite of what you said. When she tells Scott about all of this, he tells her, you know, well, it's not nearly as bad as what my wife, Diana, just did. And he seems like he's in distress. And so she's like, okay, fucking what did your wife just do? She took the kids to California to meet her boyfriend, Rick. And, you know, she wants to move there. She asked me for a divorce a few days ago. Oh my God, Scott, I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Our marriage has been dying for a while now. Which, of course, later leads to Scott drunk texting Molly, "Will you ever leave Stuart? He will never love you the way I love you." But eventually he meets someone, and unlike Molly, that someone wants monogamy. And she even asks him, "Why can't you just see the both of us?" And he's like, "No, Molly, I want monogamy, okay?" Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's how the book ends. She goes on all
What
these.
do you mean?
There's no closure, really.
Oh, this is like an ongoing case.
They're still in an open relationship. It's an ongoing case. Yeah. And but the book will say some crazy ass things like, our love for other people only seems to make us love each other more. And while I've seen people in open relationships say that, like on TikTok and on Reddit, right? For some reason, some of those people, I believe them, right? I'm like, bitch, where? Where do you and Stuart love each other? I don't see an ounce of love. It's just like crazy. She also says, "Yes, I love Scott and I love Stuart. And yes, there will be more. My heart is open enough to hold it all." So here are my qualms about this book. I think, again, open relationships are great. I think the problem with open relationships, we should destigmatize them, but also at the same time, there's going to be a lot of toxic partners who try to use the destigmatization of open relationships into manipulating their partner into being in one when they clearly don't want to be, and it's going to harm a lot of people, right? This book is that. This book is that, and also the way she talks about open relationships is almost, of course you should be in one. When it's like, I've just seen you have 25 mental breakdowns, and I haven't seen a moment in this entire memoir where I thought, "Aw, she seems genuinely fulfilled in life with herself, with her marriage, with her children, with her partners." And yet she's like, "My life is better and fuller than anyone else's because I'm in an open relationship." It's like she's gaslighting herself into thinking this is the way of life.
Yeah.
It's the craziest memoir I've read that does not deal with actual crimes.
So
Yeah.
why do you think she write? Why did you think she write this?
I don't know. I think she's probably going to transition into like having a podcast about polyamory and then like going on other people's podcasts to talk about polyamory. But I think she's in for a rude awakening because I don't think the polyamory community accept her because they're like, that's not what we stand for. Like, this is not what it's supposed to be. I think Liam was probably the only example of a healthy polyamorous person.
It's also like feels kind of alarming how many of them are out there. Like the way that she just like every single person she meets or
It's like cheating on their wives.
Yeah. It's just like
Yeah.
there's so many.
So many bad people. That's
It's like are we the minority here? Like
yeah. Is nobody happy in their marriage? Like, what's going on? Yeah. So please don't let this be a representation of polyamory, but also let this be a cautionary tale for people whose relationships clearly don't need to be open. What are your thoughts? Yeah, no, this book made me hate everyone. Let me know in the comments what are your thoughts, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.